Greetings from our channel again. The way they gazed at each other on stage, as if they were the only two people in the world, 40 years of friendship, and innumerable timeless hits. Nevertheless, millions of people have been plagued by a single, resolute question. Were Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton merely friends? They were referred to as soulmates in real life and lovers on stage. But might the reality be even more startling than we thought? A tale nobody could have foreseen. A truth unlike any whispered rumor. Love, selflessness, and an unnamed romance that broke all the rules. Finally, the truth is revealed. Both Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton were titans of country music who had distinguished careers before ever meeting. However, destiny had other ideas and brought them together to become one of the most renowned musical duos in American history. They had everything: outstanding vocals, indisputable chemistry, and an unshakable friendship that persisted for more than 30 years. However, this close relationship unavoidably led to conjecture. Was there something more going on here, or was it just friendship? In retrospect, Kenny Rogers had already established a stellar career prior to working with Dolly. He tried a variety of musical genres before landing on country pop, despite coming from a modest Texas household. Dolly Parton, a native of Tennessee, has already established herself as one of the most successful singer-songwriters of her time with hits including Coat of Many Colors, I Will Always Love You, and Jolene. Together, these two titans produced more than just popular songs. In the entertainment business, they developed a unique friendship. The turning point that elevated their collaboration to new heights was the song Islands in the Stream. In order to establish his solo career, Kenny Rogers was looking for a hit. Islands in the Stream was originally penned by the Bee Gees for soul icon Marvin Gaye. But in the end, the song was included on Kenny's Eyes That See in the Dark CD. Kenny first recorded the song by himself, but something didn't feel right. At that point, his producer offered a revolutionary idea. Give Dolly Parton a call. It was fate. Everything changed the moment she entered, took the mic, and began to sing. The song became one of the most famous duets ever when it shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Their unparalleled connection, their eye contact, their light-hearted gestures, and their easy harmonization, however, were what really enthralled viewers beyond the music. Was it something genuine, or was it merely a performance? Both Dolly and Kenny repeatedly denied any romantic involvement, even in the face of years of conjecture. In her characteristically humorous manner, Dolly frequently dismissed the rumors with laughter. I'm not his kind of person. I am too short. My legs are too short, and my chest is too little. Conversely, Kenny acknowledged their indisputable bond but insisted they never went over that boundary. That's all we did, tease each other for 30 years. But he also admitted it. Although Dolly and I shared a unique affinity, we both understood that everything would change if we ever took that action. Dolly concurred, stating that they probably couldn't have maintained their friendship for a lifetime if they had ever sought a sexual relationship. Following Islands in the Stream's enormous success, Dolly and Kenny continued to work together on a number of songs, such as Real Love, 1985, and Love is Strange, 1990. In 2013, and You Can't Make Old Friends. Each time they got together, they contributed something new while maintaining the natural chemistry that made them unique. In addition to their musical collaborations, they often appeared together on television programs, at charitable functions, and even in movies. Dolly's lighthearted taunting of Kenny during her 1987 TV special is one of their most memorable moments together, since it caused him to burst out laughing. None of the female artists I've collaborated with have evoked the same feelings in me as Dolly. She is a natural energy source that always makes me feel like a child again. Rogers, Kenny. Dolly was equally open about how much she liked Kenny. One of my best buddies is Kenny. People find it difficult to comprehend how much I love him. In 1966, Dolly married Carl Dean, although their personal lives were different. The public kept wondering even though Kenny had been married 5 times. Did they feel anything more at any point in time? Before Kenny Rogers' death in March 2020 at the age of 81, their relationship lasted for over 30 years. Dolly's heart was left with an indelible hole after his death. I can't believe you're gone, Dolly remarked in a tearful video she posted shortly after learning the news, her voice shaking. I had a deep affection for Kenny. A significant portion of my crushed heart accompanied him today. Dolly honored Kenny during his memorial ceremony by singing I Will Always Love You, a song that was penned for Porter Wagoner but eloquently captured her affection for Kenny. Kenny Rogers was mourned by the entire music industry. However, the legacy he and Dolly left behind, a unique friendship, will always endure. Music that will have a lasting impact on future generations, and an unmatched creative collaboration. There was much more to Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers' connection than just their shared love of music. It was the tale of two souls who were destined to be together, a friendship that lasted for decades, and a career that paralleled each other in the most legendary manner. People may always wonder what was really going on between them. However, one thing is for sure. Their bond was amazing without a name. In life as well as on stage, they worked together to create moments that will never be forgotten. Some love stories are never found in books, as Kenny famously stated. Hearts are inscribed with them. All some artists have to do is stand next to one another. Even without ostentatious stage effects or lighting, they can easily enthrall an audience. One such couple was Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. It was hard to turn away from them once they started harmonizing. They were more than just a duo of vocalists singing a tune. On stage, the two artists seemed destined to be together, as though they could sense each other's heartbeats. But it was more than simply their common love of music that made their relationship genuinely unique. It was the way they interacted, the way they played off and teased one another, and the way even the simplest gestures could bring them together. Which fueled the perennial query. Did they have a deeper connection? Nobody could have imagined that Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers would end up becoming one of the most recognizable duos in music history when they first met in the early 1980s. Kenny Rogers, who was already a major force in country culture at the time, was well known for poignant ballads like Lady Lucille and The Gambler. In the interim, with songs like Jolene and I Will Always Love You, Dolly Parton solidified her place as a legend. But audiences didn't fully appreciate their remarkable chemistry until they recorded Islands in the Stream in 1983. Remarkably, their flawlessly matched vocals weren't the only aspect of their chemistry. The recording of that song has a fascinating backstory. Something seemed off when Kenny Rogers was in the studio working on the song. The producer had a daring idea. Give Dolly Parton a call. Dolly happened to be in the same building that day. Without hesitation, she accepted, and a miracle occurred as soon as she entered the studio. Kenny Rogers later stated, "I knew this song was going to be legendary the second she started singing." They didn't require extensive planning or a lot of rehearsals. As though they had been singing this song together their entire lives, everything fell into place effortlessly. In addition to reaching the top of the charts upon its release, the song made a lasting impression as one of the most memorable collaborations in music history. The rumors started to circulate after that. Was it only music? Or was it something else? Watching Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers perform live was a whole other experience, even if you could sense their strong bond just by listening to them sing together. One that made it simple to comprehend why so many admirers took the romance rumors seriously. The atmosphere seemed to change each time they shared the stage. Dolly was viewed by Kenny Rogers as though she were the only lady in the universe. And Dolly always seemed to be engrossed in a lovely love tale with her duet partner, thanks to her brilliant grin and sparkling eyes. One time, while performing Islands in the Stream, Dolly gave Kenny a playful cheek squeeze in the middle of the song. He laughed, looked lovingly at her, and took her hand. There were other occasions when they had such moments on stage, and the audience cheered. As Kenny once remarked, "Dolly is the only woman I know who can make me forget the lyrics to a song just by smiling at me." Dolly responded to Kenny with her own words. "What I adore most about him is that he never fails to make me laugh." In addition to singing together, they communicated with one another through gentle touches, glances, and unmistakable smiles. These instances persuaded viewers that their relationship went beyond simple friendship. They were skilled entertainers who knew how to evoke strong feelings. But were their onstage romances just a part of the performance? "Dolly and I have a special relationship, but if we had ever crossed that line, things wouldn't have been the same," Kenny Rogers once said in direct response to the question. Although Dolly Parton denied having a personal relationship with Kenny, she never concealed her intense respect for her. "We have an unclassifiable love for one another. We most likely wouldn't have stayed as close for more than 30 years if we had ever dated." Although they may not have been in love as the world would have us believe, they had a deep relationship that may have been far more lasting. More resilient than any short-lived romance. At one point, Dolly related a moving story about Kenny Rogers' final years. "You never know how much you mean to me," he said to her during one of their final discussions. She started crying when she heard those words. What was the actual nature of their relationship, then? Maybe they were the only ones who knew. Whether they were lifelong friends or musical soulmates, there is no denying that they lit a type of fire on stage that would never go out. Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton were more than just a duo of singers. They were a unique and priceless musical combination, the ideal artistic couple. They offered each other the greatest presents a performer could give another: affection, respect, and an intangible bond that words could never adequately express. The flame that Kenny Rogers and Dolly ignited together will always burn brightly in their fans' hearts even though he is no longer with them. Fans have been wondering this intriguing question for decades. Could Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton have dated if the timing had been different? This isn't just some wild guesswork. Dolly Parton has acknowledged that she and Kenny had a unique bond that was so strong that she occasionally questioned whether they would have been together in another universe. However, life doesn't always go as planned, just like the melancholy ballads they frequently sung. Would their relationship have been different if fate had gone in a different direction? Both Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton were well-known performers with successful careers when they first worked together in the 1980s. More significantly, they both had a strong commitment to their relationships. While Dolly Parton continued to be loyal to Carl Dean, her renownedly secretive spouse. They could never have crossed that boundary, no matter how intense the attraction. However, that doesn't mean they didn't consider the possibility that they could have been able to love one another as fans had always imagined, someplace, in another timeline. What might have happened if he and I were both unmarried? During an interview, Dolly Parton once chuckled. Nevertheless, plenty to provoke thought in millions of admirers. Could they have been actual soulmates if fate had changed a little? They never dated, but that doesn't mean they didn't have meaningful conversations or times when they questioned whether friendship was enough. One such instance occurred when Islands in the Stream was being recorded. Following the song's conclusion, Kenny Rogers stopped, gazed into Dolly's eyes, and remarked, it might have been a straightforward remark regarding their performance, or maybe a subliminal recognition of something unsaid, something they both knew but could never express. At another special engagement, Kenny asked Dolly to join him on stage for a duet. She put her arms around him tightly as the song came to a conclusion and asked the crowd, in jest, "Can I keep him forever?" The audience cheered, but only they understood the true meaning of those remarks. Was it a joke? Or was it Dolly's way of acknowledging that she had dreamed of clinging to Kenny in a way that had never come to pass in a brief moment? Although neither of them ever responded definitively, their mutual glances said a lot. Something existed between them that could have developed into love in a different setting. Had Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers met sooner, before their lives diverged and before obligations took them apart? Would the course of events have been different? At one point, Kenny Rogers admitted that he probably would have fallen in love with Dolly right away if he had met her sooner. She is talented, beautiful, and has the largest heart a man could possibly desire. Kenny had a special place in Dolly's life, and she never denied it. However, love is more than merely attraction or ephemeral feelings. It has to do with circumstances, timing, and the decisions we make. Dolly Parton has consistently shown her love for Carl Dean and her commitment to their marriage. Even after going through several marriages, Kenny Rogers realized that some things, no matter how lovely, just aren't meant to be. They may have fallen in love if they had met sooner. Would that love have lasted, though? Would it have been robust enough to endure life's hardships? Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers are still regarded as one of the most iconic musical couples, despite never becoming a romantic partnership. In addition to producing timeless tunes and sharing memorable performances, they most significantly forged an unbreakable relationship that lasted for more than 30 years. Dolly is the one person in this industry I could trust completely, Kenny Rogers famously remarked. And when speaking about Kenny after his passing, Dolly Parton couldn't hold back her tears as she softly said, "I will always love you, Kenny." These weren't the words of a lover to a lost love, but of a kindred spirit speaking to someone she had cherished with all her heart. Not all love stories need a fairy tale ending. Not all deep connections must turn into romance. And not every what if is a tragedy. Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers shared something beautiful in their own way. A bond that transcended labels. A connection that remained unshakable. And a love that didn't need a name to be eternal. Perhaps in another world, they were together. But in this one, they found each other in exactly the way they were meant to. And sometimes, that's the most beautiful thing of all. In the world of country music, few relationships are as enduring and admirable as the friendship between Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. Over 4 decades, they navigated the highs and lows of life and career together, forging an unbreakable bond. Though never romantically involved, Dolly and Kenny always considered each other soulmates in their own way. Their collaborations on stage and in the studio produced timeless duets, such as Islands in the Stream, a classic that has been cherished across generations. Their vocal harmony and effortless chemistry often led fans to wonder about the true nature of their relationship. Kenny Rogers once spoke of Dolly with deep affection and respect. In an interview, he said, "Dolly is one of the most genuine people I've ever known. She has a heart as big as her talent." These words reflect Kenny's profound admiration for Dolly, not just for her immense talent, but for the person she is. Their friendship extended far beyond music. Dolly and Kenny were always there for each other, sharing moments of joy and sorrow. They supported one another through career upheavals and personal challenges, proving that their bond was built to withstand any storm. Mutual respect was a key element that kept their relationship strong. Dolly once said, "Kenny has always been there for me and I for him. We have a mutual respect that goes beyond words." Their friendship was built on this respect, which helped them maintain their relationship over time. In addition to achieving financial success, their collaboration produced moments that viewers all around the world will never forget. Fans were able to sense the unique bond between the two singers through their passionate and emotional performances. Dolly and Kenny demonstrated that two people might be true soulmates and lasting friends in both music and life, even in the absence of romance. Their bond also demonstrated that a man and woman can have a strong friendship without having a sexual relationship. Dolly and Kenny defied social norms and demonstrated that true friendship has no bounds by forging a relationship founded on trust, adoration, and intense affection. Kenny Rogers has conveyed his appreciation and affection for Dolly Parton in his senior years. "Dolly has been a constant in my life," he once remarked. "I really value the friendship we have." These sincere remarks reveal the breadth of his gratitude for their friendship, which lasted for 40 years. From their early joint ventures to their individual pinnacles of achievement, their journey together took them through many stages of life. They supported and encouraged one another through all of the difficulties and obstacles. Their friendship endured over the years because of their undying devotion to one another. Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton made innumerable treasured memories in both life and music. They demonstrated that genuine friendship is resilient to hardship and the passage of time. Many were inspired by their relationship, which demonstrated that two individuals might be lifelong soulmates traveling through life together even in the absence of passion. The loss of Kenny Rogers devastated Dolly Parton and many of her followers with an indelible hole in their hearts. But together, they created a legacy of music and memories that will endure forever. Dolly and Kenny's remarkable friendship is proof of the strength of genuine camaraderie, which endures through all hardships and the test of time. Even though they are no longer together, Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers' friendship will always be a lovely representation in the country music industry. Together, they penned an enduring tale of friendship that withstands adversity, exceeded predictions, and served as an inspiration to many. Their friendship serves as evidence that sincere connections may persist and grow despite life's inevitable changes. They developed an unbreakable bond despite the highs and lows of life and work. They continue to serve as a reminder that romantic partners are not the only method to find your true match. There are moments when they are just two hearts that support and comprehend one another. The fact that they maintained their friendship unadulterated and unflinching in the face of persistent rumors that they would one day have more in common was perhaps its most amazing feature. They would always just grin when the media asked if their relationship was more than friendship. "It never happened because we just never went there," Kenny Rogers famously remarked. Their decision to value what they had made their relationship enduring, even if there was still a unique bond and attraction between them. Instead of attempting to transform it into something else, they had a unique understanding of one another. They helped one another through their darkest moments, but they never let love interfere with their friendship. Despite having separate lives and jobs, they had an unbreakable and genuine bond when they were together. Kenny once talked about how much Dolly meant to him in an interview. "She has played a significant role in both my life and profession. I adore her unconditionally." There is no denying that Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers had one of the most exquisite friendships in the history of country music. They were two like-minded souls who found happiness and camaraderie in each other's company, and they never required a label. And maybe that's the ideal way to describe a soulmate. The devastating revelation shocked the country music industry on March 20, 2020. At his Sandy Springs, Georgia, home, the renowned voice that had impacted millions of people over the course of 6 decades had exhaled. He died at the age of 81 in the company of his devoted family, leaving his admirers with incalculable treasured memories and a vast musical legacy. Dolly Parton, his friend, colleague, and kindred spirit who had supported him for more than 40 years, may have grieved the loss more than anyone else. Despite never having a romantic relationship, Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers had a friendship that went beyond any typical romance. Together, they performed on many stages during their careers, experienced life's highs and lows, and forged an unbreakable bond. Therefore, a piece of Dolly's soul broke with Kenny as he passed away. A video was shared on social media by Dolly Parton just hours after she received the heartbreaking news. "I loved Kenny with all my heart," she continued, fighting back tears as she sat in her recording studio, her face still weighed down by recent loss. "He took a large portion of my heart with him today, and I'm devastated." It was pure, unadulterated passion, devoid of lofty literary terms. The sadness of losing a buddy wasn't the only thing. It was the indescribable void left by losing a significant other in her life's path. She went on. "When someone is gone, you never realize how much you love them. The world has been wondering for years if they were more than simply pals. But all the questions and rumors vanished in one instant, leaving only one indisputable fact. They had more in common than any label could explain. It was a unique kind of love that required only presence and no words or titles." And now that Kenny was gone, Dolly was more affected than ever by her absence. She found herself revisiting all of the memories they had made together in the days that followed. The impromptu phone calls to check in, the innumerable inside jokes whispered backstage, and their shared laughing on stage. And she made a choice in the midst of her sorrow. Even though she knew he would never read it, she would still write him a letter. She poured her heart out in the letter. "I shall always love you, Kenny. You will always be missed. And I will always be appreciative of the time we spent together." Words that are straightforward but bursting with passion. It was more than simply a farewell, it was a celebration and a thank you for a lifetime of memories that would last a lifetime. She thought back to their first encounter, when they were both young, ardent artists still establishing themselves. She remembered how Kenny's sense of humor would make tiredness change into laughing during late-night studio sessions. They sang Islands in the Stream one last time during their 2017 all-out performance for The Gambler, which she recalled as an unspoken farewell wrapped in music. Millions of people found resonance in Dolly's letter. Because it was more than just bidding Kenny Rogers farewell. It was evidence of a friendship that had endured throughout time. A bond that would endure in the hearts of people who had seen its beauty despite passing away. No regrets, none at all. One question reappeared with the death of Kenny Rogers. Did Dolly Parton ever wish she had asked him to be her lover? They have been the subject of years of conjecture. Many were persuaded that there must be more between them by their easy chemistry on stage. However, Dolly had often responded to the rumors with the same resolute response. Although it wasn't romantic, their love was genuine. "We were almost like brother and sister, and it would be like incest," she once openly explained. Dolly believed that their connection was too sacred and valuable to be reshaped by romance. Maybe their narrative might have been different in another life, with different circumstances. However, they had made the decision to respect a bond that went beyond conventional love in this life. "I think the reason we didn't have a romantic relationship is that it would have messed up everything," Kenny admitted in a 2013 interview. "We didn't want to disrupt the wonderful thing we were doing." Both of them were aware that if they ever went over that boundary, they would lose something much more valuable and unbreakable link that had endured for 40 years. There were no regrets because of this. However, Dolly Parton is adamant that he is still keeping watch over her and all of his loved ones. Kenny's voice will always be there, as she once stated. His music will endure forever, and it will always be here. His voice still reverberates in every melody he has recorded, even though he is no longer with us. And Kenny and Dolly's friendship will endure forever in those classic songs. You can't make old pals, and they won't merely remember Islands in the Stream. They will never forget two individuals that spent decades walking hand in hand. There were no expectations or labels, just a bond so strong that time could not sever it. And maybe Kenny Rogers is still whistling a well-known song Up in the Sky, and Dolly Parton is grinning because she knows that their relationship will always be there. Even though Kenny Rogers is no longer with us, his legacy endures. And his remarkable narrative with Dolly Parton was one of his greatest gifts to the world, in addition to his music. Although it wasn't a typical love story, it was yet something even more significant in its own right. An unnamed love, a friendship that stood the test of time, and an unbreakable bond.